These villains look so cool. I don't know, when I see this guy's face, I feel like I've avoided him before.
Hey everybody, this is Carl Choi with 24/7 Comics. I'm the co-founder and publisher, and I've been a collector of things most of my life, and mostly from comic books, sports cars, TCG, and original comic art. And my co-host, Sarah.
Hello, everyone.
So Sarah, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am probably now most considered a fan, also a cosplayer, and a baby collector. I have things mainly in my collection that were actually from my father's collection, lots of vintage Star Wars. So I did have a great start with Star Wars. I ventured out into all the things geek. But I just like kind of being an outside perspective, someone that thought it was like too late and I missed too much. And having friends like Carl and 24/7 Comics help me remember it's never too late to do what you love, and it's never too late to love what you love.
It's fun, and so we met about a year ago, and we decided to come together and do some streams. But one of the things we always wanted to do was this thing called the 24/7 Comic Book Club. So why, Sarah, do you think we started talking about this?
I think my idea behind doing something like this is to kind of introduce all of the variables that go into a comic book. We can always say, oh yeah, we've read it, or we don't have a collection, or we're watching a lot of content now. So we're just here kind of breaking it down, highlighting some things you may not notice, bringing up something you probably love, and hopefully getting you interested in reading more, in experiencing more in the comic book world.
Yeah, and on the commercial side, we thought a lot about how comic books just don't get the attention they used to. I think most of the distribution comes from comic book shops, and I think right now the reach is quite limited. And so we do see a lot of YouTubers doing coverage. And what we want to do is identify creator-owned books, indie books, as well as comic book classics that you may not have read before, and then dive right into them. So why don't you give a little preview as to this first book that we're going to dive into, Sarah?
So this first book we decided on, we kind of joke because we're very enthusiastic about it. We love it, but it's very, very dark as well. So we have very similar backgrounds. We'll get into that more later, but this is one of the first books Carl actually shared with me that I'd never, ever heard of at all before. So we are doing King of Spies.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
There we go, King of Spies #1. So what's really fun about this cover is they had multiple versions. I remember opening the newsstands, and there was a good amount of covers. So if I was to go through all the covers, we have, I think, a few by Matteo Scalera, the creator, one of the co-creators, and then we also have a Mark Chiarello, as well as Oscar Udiram, I believe that's how you say it. But there's a ton of covers, and not to mention, a little surprise here: Zero Ghost is going to be our latest Kickstarter. If you haven't seen this yet, we actually gave this away at Heroes Con, which is our Ashcan edition with Justin Jordan and Brian Chang. Now, what's relevant here is Matteo Scalera had also worked with Justin Jordan on Dead Body Road, which is a great read in itself. So, quick plug: our Kickstarter is about to launch soon, and if it hasn't already, by the time this video gets out, please do give it a like, check it out. If not, look for it in secondary. Thank you. All right, back to the program. So we are now at King of Spies, and let's talk a little bit about the creators.
There's definitely something about his work that is a bit dark. He's not afraid of some violence. If you really, really were into anything like spy, anything action, you're just gonna, this was something I didn't put down. So really, really love the work. Lots of contrast within this. We're working with an incredible colorist, Giovanna Nero. So she has a way of making things soft when they could otherwise just be very gory, and tends to switch that up when you least expect it. So just so much talent going on here.
Yeah, and Millar World is actually, or Miller World is actually currently owned by Netflix, and this was the first Netflix comic that came out through Image Comics. And the artist, Matteo Scalera, I've been a huge fan for most of my comic art collecting career. He started in 2008. He had a science fiction called Hyperkinetic, and with Howard Shum, he has then worked with a lot of big guys out there, including Rick Remender on this book called Black Science, which I think was also huge. And as I mentioned earlier, Justin Jordan on Dead Body Road. And so he's done so much work after this. Ever since King of Spies, it's really hard to catch up because his body of work is huge. So I think as we go into the art, you'll definitely see what is so special about, and probably why Mark Millar picked Mateo for this title.
So something getting picked up by Netflix, that seems like a pretty huge deal, right? Like, when did this start happening? I know Netflix is like everywhere now, but.
Well, they bought the whole company. They literally bought Millarworld, the whole catalog. That's why you see like Jupiter's Disciple. Is Jupiter's Disciple? Yeah. Jupiter's Disciple, Jupiter's Legacy, and also like Kick-Ass. Those are all titles owned by Netflix now. And
they really went to town on Kick-Ass. I didn't realize how many different things they had going. So is this something like you as a publisher, fully in the industry, do you basically just say, okay, it's Millarworld, it's Netflix, it's going to be good?
No, not necessarily. This was their first one though, so I definitely dove into it with curiosity, and I think they knew that people were going to be a little bit critical, so they had to make sure it's a strong story. Yeah, in fact, everyone we named earlier, Giovanni, Clem did the lettering, had a Melina who did the design production. Pretty tight team, but tons of work, especially with support by Image Comics. And issue number 1, the official solicit is: the world's greatest secret agent has 6 months to live. Does he die quietly in a hospital bed, or does he make up for a lifetime of bad decisions? He's been propping up an unfair system for 40 years now. Now he knows where all the bodies are buried, has nothing to lose when he turns his gun on everyone who ever made a buck creating the mess we're in now. All right, so with that said, Sarah, let's jump into this. I mean, going right into this first issue, this is the opening scene. Where are we? Where are we as the audience?
We're just taken right back. This is clearly looking and feeling like a flashback. We're in Panama City, 1990, 2 weeks after the U.S. invaded. So you are just right off the bat hit with some action, and this action is flowing. There's really no stop.
Yeah, they cut right to the chase. Like, Mattel just goes right in, feel like, what the F? And this always gets me right here. Every time I turn a page and I see this dude like literally jumping off a building, but shooting upside down the whole way down and hitting his targets. I mean, it's just hilarious.
Hitting the targets all the way down. If there wasn't such color contrast here, you would probably be getting lost, because you're obviously going on to the next page here. Very cool. There's a baby being born. Okay, that's the connection here. He's gone right through that ambulance. It's just nonstop action, and you kind of don't know where you are until the colorist is telling you. Here's the connection.
Was this ambulance actually driving? Because he literally lands on a moving ambulance. If you look at it, it actually goes on to like a hard stop. So as crazy as it is, there's a lot of humor to the action itself.
And the way this flows, you just can see that it's calculated. He is absolutely surely going to drop onto that perfect ambulance top to break his fall. He's not even missing a beat here. It's just nonstop.
And they're not short of graphic when this baby literally pops out.
I love looking at this woman's face. She's like, concentrating pretty hard on birth, but apologies, senorita, but I need this gas more than you do right now. I mean, look at her face. She is just like, oh, okay.
That is so funny.
Out comes the lighter. Cover the baby's ears, please.
So in fact, this is a very very clear intro as to who Roland is. So Roland King is our protagonist through the series, and this is a very young, momentum, like very definitely like clean shaven, lean, very spry, and he has a big smile and just full of confidence. And so it really sets up who our protagonist is going to be or was.
He's young, he's smug, he suggests his name for the baby's name. on his way out.
Confidence. And, like Sarah said, that the action never ends. And so they're basically now running through the streets. He's still fighting. I don't know who the hell he's shooting, but he's shooting everybody. And not only does he have like superpowers when it comes to landing on cars from like, falling off 100 stories, he can also jump, like an NBA player. And so he lands on this Jeep and basically flips right over on top of a moving train.
Those constant lines in the background, it's just speed, speed, speed. I mean, it's very like speedy in the background, and that's what makes these characters pop. Like, you're just kind of like overwhelmed by everything, and then seeing how the violence, like, he just keeps it moving. Like, yeah, there's an injury, but then like any classic action film, like, you're on to the next thing. So I mean, really, just I've read this quite a few times now, and you're still just like, you almost forget how much goes on because it goes on so fast.
So what happened to him? Does he stabbed by somebody, or did he fall into something, like something on the train?
I mean, it looks like he is just falling and rolling and frankly almost bouncing. He's got some blood, but it's not really until this interaction with these siblings here that he seems to have a serious injury. And as you can see, he's not really shown being injured. He's more shown removing this knife from his shoulder.
Yeah, they don't waste any time. Go right back into the action. Mm-hmm. And obviously he gets him back, and the brother is like, ouch, that hurt. But
the first focus on kind of any bad guy here. So now he's against these two that are suited up. And just very subtly there on that last panel on the left, you're seeing what looks like a tracking device. He's like taking his time. He's kind of instigating these bad guys, but he's up to something as always. He's always 2 steps ahead.
And it turns out to be a bomb, and he actually blows this thing up. And
highly flammable.
Yeah, of course. He knew that. He knew that too. He saw it in the back of his eye. And of course, always the best coordination, or he's kind of like Domino of Deadpool, where he's like the luckiest guy ever because he literally lands on a freaking taxi as he's calling it. Is that
absolutely?
And this kid's like, what the
always heck? Has like the same like look of like smug on his face because he's good. We're not worried.
So obviously he says, fall on that plane. And, on this plane, you're introduced to, I think, some of the bad guys that he was going after. And so they're, getting away. And, this person.
Follow that plane, a classic. Now, these villains look so cool, like so gritty. So just like, I don't know, when I see this guy's face, I feel like I've avoided him before. Like, it's just very relatable characters throughout this entire thing, and we'll go on. But I'm just like, I know this guy. I hope he gets taken out.
Yeah, and it's funny because this was like the first moment of calmness since we opened the book, where these guys have thought they've gotten away, and you look at his smug, he's like, yes, no way,
His dialogue, it's just like, throw me away like a used condom, and you're just like, I get that kind of vibe from you.
And what they cut right to is all his goons getting shot up. And, all of a sudden our boy went from taxi to the plane. I'm actually still like scratching my head on how he did it, but
how? Like,
he's Roland King. He could do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even, we don't even need to know, but he was clearly ready to report his balls are still intact. So yeah. I love this. I love the debauchery of it already. I love that they're just so old school bro about this.
What's funny is we're not the only ones that's confused too. This guy's like, how did you get up here? Really confused, like, what the heck? So
okay, he says hitched a ride with one of your old drug cartel friends. Okay, I did not notice that last time. There is the whole answer we've been wondering about. That one little tiny text box when the plane's going down.
Oh yeah, and then there's a plane that's crashing.
Yeah, so he went from one plane to the next, taxi to plane to plane.
That's hilarious. I
Makes
totally
perfect
missed that
sense
last
now.
time. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, oh my gosh, I've read this 5 times and I'm still like, oh, it's like your favorite movie. Like,
Yeah, I think
yeah, it's
on
so
the
good.
original art aspects of this, Mattel was on a tight deadline, so he didn't work on traditional 11 by 17. He actually did 11 by 14, and so the format was a little smaller. So he had to pack a ton of details in even smaller paper. So it just really shows to the mastery of the artist himself,
Oh,
being able to like, within each of these boxes, giving us really full pictures of the story. So I think that in itself is pretty.
that is so interesting too. Yeah, because each spy story is a full-length film. So instead of like someone trying to come up with images to get to the ending, you got so much editing that probably had to occur here.
Yeah. So we'll skip the next page, and what happens is you find out the pilot is actually a friend, accomplice, who
Yeah.
basically had him set up. So they were doing some, you know, coordination and whatnot. And obviously, often when you watch spy movies, you always want to give a little bit of a precursor of what's to come. And what's interesting is they actually show the twins, or the brother and sisters, floating in the water. So, what it's a little dark because obviously, like they're both kind of blown up, but you actually don't know if they're alive or not. So I guess we'll
Right.
find.
This definitely is like, you may see me again later. This accomplice is introducing something important in the imagery of this story. They're like, I always smoke a cobs after I've made love, that, didn't really happen, but it's that same like relief, like that they get. So they're introducing the cigarette, they're introducing the satisfaction, they're introducing a mission accomplished, and off into the sunset they go, leaving these villains kind of like, probably see you later. But right now, we're off.
All right. So basically, we're off to the next page where now we're in modern day London. And, what's crazy is, you saw a version of King, and I think now you're introduced to the present day King. He's now bearded, he's flabby, he seems a little bit more static, and, he is definitely more questioning himself, and a little messier now.
Yeah. This is obviously clear, it's cold, it's not passionate. You're definitely transported to like a very relevantly unpleasant time now. There's no action, there's no sex, there's no cigarettes, there's no like strategic anything. It's just like a reality check.
There's two sex actually. If you look at the panel here, she's two. These two
And
having
is
sex.
this the same lady?
Yeah, I don't know
I
if it's the
think
same
this
lady
is.
actually. That's a good question actually, because she has similar hair. I wonder if it's the same lady. I don't know. It makes me
I'm so
wonder if
curious
they're reflecting on it.
because again, you're seeing the sex scene, but the cigarettes are a little like, curlers on my hair. Hey, they're tired.
No, it could be. Actually, it's funny. She's actually holding up the cigarettes, and I wonder if that's the connection between the past and the present. So
They make references here to like she's married and moved on, but they're having this rendezvous. So it's like, I wonder if that's the connection, like from the past to now. They have changed.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Actually, I think Mark Miller's really good at that too. I think as
It's
a
so
master
fantastic.
storyteller, he was able to kind of tie this in. So there's this relationship that he's carried on from this past incident to what's happening today. So now you see him suited up. He's off to do whatever he's doing next. I think he's obviously, like you said, living a very different life now. And so as he's, what's really important actually is this dialogue with the taxi driver, because in a way, Roland is still a little bit stuck in the past because times have changed, and now he really is kind of criticizing, like, "Hey, what the hell has the world become?" Right?
Right. It's like when you're old and you can't do anything about it, you're kind of like, where did it all go wrong? Even though he may have had something to do with this. So.
Yeah, so I think he gives him a little tip. He goes to wherever he's going. And he's older now. He's done what he's done. He's done the work for the agency per se, and he's no stranger to the queen. The queen knows his name, and in a really interesting way, the exchange of words here are actually pretty powerful, because what does she say to him, right?
She's saying, he's there to receive another award, but she has this knowingly, almost sarcastic grin on her face, just saying, oh, these medals aren't for bravery. The medals are for the sacrifices.
Yeah, and look at his face. It's almost like a moment of real life.
Oh, like, I'm not a badass with no feelings or anything. Oh, crap. The reality set in. Like, I wasn't just doing what I had to do. I actually sacrificed everything else I could have ever had to do it.
Yeah, and so
he's uncomfortable. He's very uncomfortable with this.
Very uncomfortable. But look what we cut right to. And did you notice this before, where this lady is talking about how she was married for 11 years, but she doesn't like to talk about they have a son. So it's really crazy how, like, often when you read a book, it's easy to skim over this, because I actually skimmed over this lady, and actually getting interviewed for one reason or another, and it's cutting to a lot of these different scenes as to what this world building is all about.
There's so much time travel, and it really does go back and forth and back and forth, and the use of color helps keep you right along.
Wow.
It's just amazing. So yeah, we're seeing this love interest married to him all this time. And this is going to lead us right down into another mysterious character.
Yeah, just smoking a cigarette. It's like a little quick flash. Who the heck is this? Is that Roland? I don't know, but it's actually not. It's interesting. We'll tie into that later. But it's really interesting because it does kind of jump back and forth. It goes right back to the world building. He talks a little about who he was, what his father did, what he's done for the world. And then he's kind of questioning now, like, man, like, was it all worth it?
It really is. Like, this is very intelligent writing. It's very, like, the story is so strong here because you're being flipped back and forth, but you get so many inferences. I mean, these small subtext boxes. Is it really any wonder my boy doesn't speak to me? I suspect you're just going through a classic midlife crisis, Roland. So it's like, how are all these people connected here? We've got someone married to him. We've got a son somewhere. Like, it's just very, very subtly building up to a very strong story.
Yeah, so he went from a very, very active life of just going on missions, beating people up, being very promiscuous, right? Like as a secret agent should. And now he's in this kind of grown up adult life where, you're in these private clubs, you're just having drinks and whiskey, but he's actually not liking what society has become. And he points that out to his friend. And in a way, like, his friend is kind of like, it is what it is. And to him, he's like, why? Why does it have to be that way, right? And then you could tell he's angry. He gets up and he basically, in a way, I think, none of his business, but goes and, in a way, picks a fight with these guys.
Yes. He's very reserved and just looking for an excuse to snap now. He doesn't have a mission, but he's just like hoping for one.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, it's funny, he actually collapsed before the fight can even start. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is as he collapsed, we're kind of cutting back to these, like, apparently random panels that are, capturing different moments of what, right? We don't know, because you're kind of now following this other character. And here he is again, the gentleman with the cigarette earlier, and back to Roland. And so now Roland's here, and he's just kind of like, all you have to say was the F word, and we all know how he feels.
Yeah.
Basically, at this point, he's being told that, what do you say? What does the nurse say?
Now he has 6 months to live, and he has a tumor, very large tumor. So this is looking like brain cancer, really.
Yeah. And it also foretells this relationship between him and his son, because she says, anyone you want us to call, and he said, don't waste your money. So obviously, he doesn't see his son as someone that is his next of kin, rather just another, person that has passed on in his life.
Yeah. You see that harsh reality in Blue, and then your bright flashback to a brighter time, sometime in the past when he wasn't feeling this way.
Yeah,
So
and there's
now
a lot of regrets too. Like if you look at
there's
this,
so many regrets.
yeah,
He's always on the outside, even when you see him here with the mother and his child, he's still watching from afar. He's not part of this memory. He's still a spy and is spying on them. And it's pretty crazy because he's still remembering her and regretting that. This boy was not ruined like all the other things I destroy with a single touch. So it's almost now that he's feeling like him staying away was for their benefit. And he's definitely going back and forth. Like, I was no good. I couldn't have been good for them, but I also didn't choose to be there for him or for them as a family.
yeah. What's crazy is how emotional this whole thing becomes, because you're introduced to Roland, who's like a lighthearted, happy killer, just living life, and then he's kind of come to this life now where he's questioning himself, and his confidence almost in an all-time low. There's just wondering like, what the hell this thing became, and like what his life has become. You look at himself; he's looking at himself in the mirror, and man, he like straight just headbutts himself in the mirror.
It's so complex. And whereas before we would kind of know that injuries were happening, but we were keeping it moving, now you are seeing how broken this person is physically, emotionally, mentally. Like, he's feeling it now. It's caught up to him.
Man, Mattel captured this perfectly in this scene. Look at this.
It's so wild.
Wild, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just this view from he's on the floor, like bloody everywhere, and holding his face low, like rock bottom. I would just say that's a straight up rock bottom.
The blood spatter, the patterns, like I watch way too much of like just murder documentaries, but it's like it's just so realistic. It's just like he doesn't give a crap. He's trashing this whole place, and you just see this like small broken figure that we've never seen in his past ever before.
Yeah, and this is a very private moment, because then next thing you know, we cut right to him at the bar, and he has his bandages. He's kind of hanging out again, and drinking his sorrows away. It's funny, you and I both worked in hospitality for many years. You're still quite active in the space, but how many guys have we seen like him who just has this deeper story that they come to the bar to drink away?
Yeah. And usually it's obvious this man has put a lot of energy into being cold and cut off. And our past knows if this guy comes in every day of the week, you're eventually going to figure out what the hell is going on. But for the most part, you can see people avoiding him. He's not really present. He's there, but he's just kind of closed himself off completely.
Yeah, he even says like he was never afraid to die because it didn't feel real. And it's funny because in the beginning of this book, those action scenes do not feel real. Like he's literally like skimming by and getting shot, whatever. Like nothing really fazed him. But all of a sudden, a moment comes along, and something becomes very real. The fact that the same kind of punks he had started his issue with actually shows up again in the form of disrespecting the waiter.
Yeah. Yep, just smashing glass on the floor. He's kind of noticing there's no apology, and like the reserved gentleman he is, he takes it to the bathroom.
Yep. And then he goes to the bathroom, he falls down. The guy literally just told him he's busy, and he goes right back into action again. And only Mattel Scalera can pull this off.
It's crazy.
The
whole
like
background is the movement.
these guys. Exactly. Then he gets under this other dude, and the guy's kind of like, what the F? And he shoots all four guys.
Yeah. We're back now to the action where it's like you're definitely seeing violence, but it's like action shots. There's no real okay until it pans out to that final scene, the aftermath.
Yeah, and again, another bathroom scene. Well, what's really interesting now is, yo, this is dope. The contrast between this bathroom scene and this bathroom scene, where he's now standing, straight, confident again, and it really shows, man, like what he's built for.
That's his element there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's happier there, definitely, than feeling his feelings.
Yeah, I know like smoking isn't as popular anymore these days, but I felt like it was really key to have.
He would light up right after this.
Exactly. It's almost like after killing people, after sex, like this is this moment where he feels cool again. He's kind of like lost that like sadness kind of thing, and like he's back.
And this is beautiful. This bathroom scene: 6 months to live, 3 in good health, just enough time for a final mission. I'm going to rid the world of all the old monsters and try to make it up to the people I let down. Yeah. So feeling that like passion again, that like, all right, well, I got to do what I got to do. Like, this is just the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah, Roland King found a calling, and the calling is to continue ridding the world of these scumbags. And so it brings us up to the world that he's going to be entering. And this kind of goes back to, Mark Millar's world, and this being the first kind of one since acquisition. Or was this Jupiter's Legacy? I'm not sure. I mean, it's the first one I know this coming out of it, but maybe Jupiter's Legacy was before this. But, he's not a stranger to comics. So Mark Millar did an amazing job here, bringing all this together, and now kind of going to what he does best with King of Spies. To me, definitely a classic in the world of Miller World. So that closes it up. Issue number 1 is done. And how do you feel after reading this first issue?
I feel like I've been lazy all day. I feel like I need to go like kickbox or something.
Right? Gotta get back into it.
I have possibly 6 years to live. Let's go.
It's crazy because not only does it, I felt like we literally just went through like a lifetime of storytelling. It also does like make you reflect on, your life, right? Like, what have I been doing? And like, what do we end up with, right? Like, we only have a very finite amount of time. Like, I think we all share this where we don't know how much time we have. And, we got to witness this guy who, lived a life that we all looked up to in the world of like in the vein of 007. And now he's looking back, regretting it. And so it's a really cool story and a great twist to a classic story. A great twist to a classic tale.
Mm-hmm. It really completes it for me because I wasn't even super into all the glory of Spies. I always was just kind of like, no one discusses like the internal. It's like PTSD. Like, no one's training you how to like turn off when you get back from battle. So this is so cool if you're just into anything like war, spy, action. It really just kind of like completes that picture for me.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll move to issue 2 next. But in the meantime, folks, thanks for checking out issue number 1. Issue 2 will come out soon enough. And for now, please like, comment, and subscribe below, and tell us what other books we should be reading during 20% Comics Book Club.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.